Well, welcome everybody to the WOrbli Global Team Meeting. This is something that we've been doing over the course of the past year, and we decided that we wanted to open it up and start letting people get a bit of a peek inside what we have going on at WOrbli, and give people an opportunity to ask some questions and interact a little bit with the team. So this is our first session, and we'll be having these bi-weekly from here on out. And this will be the format that we're going to use. We're going to just give updates from each of the major internal departments at WOrbli, and then I'll give kind of a general update after that. And then we'll open it up for everybody to ask questions. Matt's going to act as the moderator and curator for us for the questions. So just a heads up, we're not going to be able to answer any specific questions around price. It's kind of similar to the Telegram. We can't really comment on speculation around the WOrbli token. So those questions are just not going to get through. I suppose you can try. Maybe Matt will make a mistake. I doubt it. But it's really here for information and just, again, to answer any questions that are out there on the various stakeholders that are part of the WOrbli project. So let's get started with Sam. Sam's going to give us an update from the marketing team, give you an idea what we're working on there.
Thanks, Dom. Hey, hello everyone. Hello the world. Thanks for joining in. Look, from a marketing perspective, we got a really great team. We got some amazing projects on the go. But the most importantly, if we talk about Tokenoro, a lot of you would know that Tokenoro is one of the first projects launching on WOrbli. We're working very closely with Tokenoro, building up their strategy and all of their planning, and really understanding for Tokenoro who their key market segment is. If we were to just break down who their customers are, you know, they're going the full SEC route with their security token offering, and in the short term, it is accredited investors. So we're working with Tokenoro to understand and ascertain who may invest in their project, and there's some really exciting things going on in the gold industry, and certainly with gold streaming. So we're very excited with Tokenoro and how that's going. You know, secondly, from WOrbli marketing perspective, is we're working on a number of really good partnerships, and one of those which I can talk about in a little bit more detail is a partnership with Swinburne University in Australia. I'm myself and several of the marketing team at WOrbli are based in Australia, and Swinburne University has shown some great interest in what WOrbli are doing, and they're actually tying us into their Masters of Financial Technology course and degree there. So we're just discussing a partnership with Swinburne to I suppose educate people about WOrbli, the future, and what our technology will achieve. And the interest that we've had, it just shows that academia is very much interested in what WOrbli is doing and what the possibilities are. So hold tight on those and a few other education institutes. Another key objective for the team, and it's something that we've had a couple of challenges with from the get-go, from a UX perspective on the website. And the website itself. So one of our key projects is going to be over the next few weeks is building a new website, articulating ourselves as clearly as possible for the variety of different stakeholders that we have. You know, our Telegram community is, and I'm sure we could probably highlight a number of different types of stakeholders that we have in Telegram. But we then got a load across the press, and you know, the sales and lead opportunities that we got coming our way. And lastly, our marketing team are really just setting up for Q2 and preparing what we have to come, as we will elaborate on what we'll elaborate on shortly. But there's an awful amount of opportunities coming our way. And quite frankly, the blockchain industry, it's about, I think the most important thing for us is to make sure we're dealing with very worthy and good projects. Something that we just need to be careful with is, I'd say in the last 3 weeks, we've had about 35 to 40 inquiries. And for us, it's important to make sure that those inquiries are meeting the philosophy and philosophical, view of Worbli, and they're building on Worbli for the right reasons. So part of our job is to ensure that Worbli has lots of apps coming, and that lots of people are thinking about building on Worbli as well. But that's really just a nice summary for where marketing is at the moment. And I'll hand back to Dom to add his 2 cents should he want to, and then pass on to the next team member.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yeah, your comment about the applications and getting the right fit. I remember discussions we had around this. First or second, March, April of last year, where we really started talking about how we were going to create a process for that and meet the compliance standards that we know we need to meet the quality level, meet the security levels. And, there's, for every decision that's made public, there's, hours and hours of discussions around these things, because it hasn't been done before, and it's a delicate process, and I feel really comfortable with our current business development process and how we vet applications. And it's definitely going to be a quality versus quantity thing in the early going. And it's around applications that are contributing to infrastructure, because we know that then enables a lot of second layer applications in the future. So it's a very strategic process to what we're doing here. And, we've all talked about that, how those first few applications are going to kind of set the tone. So it's not something where people can expect, hundreds of applications on Worbli in the next year. That's extremely likely, I'd say.
I'd add to that, Dom, and just to expand on, I suppose, another marketing point is what everything that Worbli has done and Tokenoro are doing, and all of the other applications are working with in the background. We're continuously learning as an organization, but I think even if we were to look back at the community, we're learning and we're seeing how our industry is changing. That different attributes are being focused more on in 2019 versus 2018, and this is really the value that we have with the grassroots of really understanding how to articulate what we're doing, but also helping other businesses understand those intricacies too. So we're getting to a nice place where we've got some great case studies and runs on the board. And sorry, that runs on the board, I think that's an Australian anecdote. So maybe not everyone will get it. But yeah, no, it's in a very good position for all of the applications that are coming in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Sam. All right, let's get a little update from tech, and we'll have Rob, our CTO, just give us a little overview of what we're working on there.
Yes, so in the background, we've been working on a major revamp of our portal. So this is a reskinning of it, and then also a re-implementation of the AML KYC flow. So this will hopefully reduce a lot of the friction that a lot of people have seen. And also in the background of that, we are implementing a more robust workflow to handle the AML KYC exceptions in a quicker and more timely manner. So this involves both technology, a streamlined troubleshooting application that our operations team will be using, but also staff to handle those requests. So that's the portal side. On the chain side, I've almost finished the Worbli fork merge with the 1.6.2 upstream ES core software upgrade. So I hope to get that pushed and tagged in the next week. Another thing that we've been taking some time on is since launch, we've been running with the same set of contracts, that system contract that were from back in July. So I'm almost finished with merging the CDT changes and the ESIO contracts 1.5.2 version. So this has a lot of upgrades, some new actions, particularly in regards to pinning resources, and also some currency changes to add some more functionality. And then some additional work we've been doing is we're just gearing up for the launch of a couple of apps, namely Tokenoro, and then after that, Utility X. So basically a lot of work and design is going into integration of those apps. Mainly some AML KYC stuff, particularly that Tokenoro will be for accredited investors. So we will more than likely have to have a customized token contract to limit trading between accredited investors. And then also just the additional levels of AML KYC that we'll probably need. We're expecting a lot of kind of corporate users. So as opposed to individual AML KYC, the corporate AML KYC has some different requirements. So we're figuring out how to, first of all, collect that data, securely store it, and then also share that with our partners. And then finally, optimization of the chain. In the background, we are working with our BPs and a couple partners to really optimize the chain. And I think WOrbli, due to its centralized or more centralized nature, we have an ability to really pull some levers that is not available on mainnet. So in the coming weeks, expect to start hearing about some of the changes we're doing, and we hope to also be able to kind of demonstrate that on our testnet. So that's a high level. I'll keep it kind of short for this today. So.
All right, thanks a lot, Rob. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that covers it. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we had our technical meeting this morning, going over a bunch of the stuff. And the theme is that we conceptualized a bunch of stuff early on, things that we thought would be critical for applications that we needed to get done kind of prior to launch, and then getting the chain live. And now the good thing is that we're finally getting informed by the applications, what do they need? Because up until you get to that point, it's a guessing game. And Rob and I have spoken a lot about, there's a lot of ideas we've had, but we don't want to go running off with our technical team, building some feature that no one's going to use. It might sound cool or look cool, but if it's not relevant to apps that are coming on board, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to put our resources into that. So it's a great opportunity to finally see applications that are giving us technical requirements and working on those integrations, because it really does give us a tighter roadmap, which is great. So thanks a lot for the update, Rob. Let's just have Sean do a little update around business development and what's going on over there.
Well, that's awesome. There's some exciting stuff. Obviously, both Rob and Sam gave you guys a little bit of an update on what's happening with Tokenoro, and this is there, and kind of as far as the application itself, it's in the design and development stage. But that's going to be really fun. But on the other side of it, we also have, if kind of staying in that, actually, let me say in the retail vein, we have a couple of other retail application opportunities that are also, we are in the works with as far as their projects are concerned. And those are very interesting. One of them has a donation element to it, and that's pretty fun. And what's really interesting about it is how it utilizes the chain in a very simple but effective manner. And then we have, of course, several others that have been alluded to by both marketing and Dom that have to do with the functionality of the chain. These are tools that we'll be able to use effectively for several different applications. And so those are really, really going to be important. And those are, unlike the retail one, the retail ones that we're looking at, those we're still in negotiation with. The ones that Dom and Rob have kind of talked a little bit about are actually, they're on a timeline to be completed. And then in the potential works are several others that have to do with trusted token offerings. We have some that are looking at building some tools for financial education tools for children. That's a really exciting one. So there's some really cool things that we're looking at from a late Q2, Q3, and Q4 as far as when they will happen. But again, going back to what Dom said, it's so important that it is the right fit. So one of the things that we're trying to help people do is provide additional services that really bring a business or a business idea farther along. Let's say you're missing certain pieces, then WOrbli has so many great resources that will help a person say, okay, I've got this great idea, but I'm lacking in marketing, or I've got this great idea, but I'm lacking in technical expertise. And that's when we can come along and help a person kind of move that project forward. Some of those kind of cultivation and discovery tools that are in our toolbox. So that's what's happening. Look for stuff coming very soon, though, and it'll be really great when they start rolling out in April.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. It's really the finally at that phase of getting stuff live, and I know that everybody's been anticipating that, and I'm sure we want everything to happen yesterday, but the types of applications, I think, to give a little insight, when you're running an entirely compliant blockchain end to end, it's a long tail process, and the types of businesses we're talking to, they're building things that haven't been built before. It's not like they can just look at a blueprint in Web 2.0 and say, okay, let's just do that, or take their existing, assets and just kind of deploy them on chain, right? There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot to think about. And we have a process in business development that assesses multiple aspects. And so there's just the business plan itself, right? Is there a business model? Do they have a plan that's going to, make sense and sustain the company long term? Do they have a plan for compliance? Are they already within the compliance boundaries that we're aware of for the business that they're in? We do a check around just basic tech, depending on the stage they're at. Apps come to us from, as Sean suggested, from some are just kind of well thought out ideas, to people that already have MVPs or applications that are working. And so we have to do a technical assessment. And then we also have to do an assessment around security. Do they have a plan for it? And what does that look like? So it's a multi-pronged approach, and there's, several distinct areas that we have to assess before we can really begin that engagement of developing the project together. And so it takes longer. It's not mainnet where you can whip something up and just go live. But I hope that gives people insight into why it's not just a flurry of apps that are coming out, So in that vein, some of the bigger initiatives right now for the foundation, We're bolstering our compliance infrastructure. Rob spoke to some of the technical development that's going on with the AML KYC. We're ever learning in this area and working to improve it. But also, again, putting in additional layers of compliance around risk management with everyone's personal information. We take that super seriously, and we're constantly assessing and analyzing the way we handle sensitive information, looking at how we're going to scale customer service, the compliance exceptions, for example, really working on that. Again, there's not a real clear roadmap. We have to kind of assess the risk of individuals who maybe make it to watch lists or have other issues in the AML KYC process. And so we're working on kind of really tightening those guidelines so that the customer service team can have very specific processes to put people through or potentially reject the account creation. In that, we're really working with Tribe. I think everyone's aware of Tribe's presence in our Telegram, but we're looking to really strengthen and deepen that relationship over time. And so there'll be some announcements coming out of the work we're doing there. We're also, this is the beginning of the phase of kind of that decentralization process that we've talked about. Now that the foundation's formed, year one was about getting the chain live and getting the project off the ground. And now years 2 and 3 will be about deploying applications, but also beginning to kind of decentralize the workload. Decentralization isn't just, the sort of blockchain idea around, individual user control and things like that. It's also about making sure that the foundation is occupying the right position in the governance model that we're building. And so, the foundation's mandate will ultimately really just be around compliance, managing the portal, managing the chain. That's it. Just making sure that the sort of core, GitHub and system contracts and the chain performance are, the best they can be. That our compliance plans are in place and processes, and they're properly reviewed and prepared for audits or compliance reviews of any kind. And then that the WOrbli portal and account creation processes are the best they can be. But things like marketing, for example, we've already begun that process of creating additional entities for marketing. And we're doing the same thing with business development. And this is going to create the roadmap for our licensing structure. One of the things that people don't often think about with compliance isn't just about what you do internally. It's also who you're engaged with, who you're in partnership with, who we're allowing to offer services to the stakeholders in the community and on the project. And so, we're hyper aware of trying to prevent fraud, scams, theft, all of those things. And we obviously have options at the network level to mitigate some of this stuff, but we don't want to just rely on constantly reversing transactions, right? The best way to do it is to try to prevent these things to begin with and create an environment where it's difficult in the first place for people to do these types of things. And so due diligence, assessment of vendors, assessment of the apps, of course, but all business partners of every type. So that's a big part of what we're doing and we'll continue to work on. We're also working on the WOrbli Network Fund. We do have the sort of bones of the first project that we'd like to put out there and allow bidding. And that's how we expect to get the network fund started, is we're going to start by putting out projects that we know need to be done for the benefit of the network. And the first one is that we want someone to take the native ESIO forums and turn that into Worbli forums on chain for us, which will, through the governance team, that's kind of that critical process where we can begin engaging the community. And we want those conversations and that dialogue to be documented on chain. So that's kind of the first project. So look for that for us to be making an official announcement around that in the near future. And just a little bit about apps. We get asked all the time, what's going on, what's upcoming. The general philosophy at this point is that we're not going to give any dates. So the bottom line is it's extremely difficult to give dates for people that are building things that, for the most part, have not been done before. So we have Tokenoro coming. It looks like Q2. Utility X around the same time. We have a digital FX platform that's in development, which is a component of the Fiat Gateway project that we've mentioned. We have a digital asset trading platform coming, effectively a centralized exchange, which again is part of the Fiat Gateway project. We have a real estate tokenization platform that's in development. We have the decentralized insurance exchange, which is in development. And something that's a little bit new is the Worbli DEX. That's something that we decided that we wanted to do to create the kind of liquidity environment for the Worbli token that we'd like to see. And also as just a way to reduce our dependence on third-party exchanges. The exchange business is still a pretty dirty business. I don't know if you guys followed Matt's recent video posted in the Telegram, but we're seeing that people are reviewing the exchanges, and a lot of them are producing fake volume. There's wash trading, there's manipulation, and of course, it's not all. And we're working with some exchanges that we feel pretty confident in, and we'll continue that process over time. But for us, it's very, very important that we make sure that our token is listed with the right folks. So that's just something that we decided we wanted to do. So we'll be looking for a Worbli DEX. The other side of that is that it will also allow us for any applications that go live on Worbli, they can list their token in the DEX, which will be great. And so that's another attraction. Our focus right now is enterprise. It's B2B. It's about getting apps live. And in time, that will drive the user acquisition process. So we really expect the applications to be the way in which we attract attention and we attract users to the platform over time. And of course, we'll be optimizing for the user experience, over continuously, really, until we get to the point where it's as easy to use as I think we'd all hope to see. But there's still a lot of development and a lot of technical development that needs to occur, not only at Worbli, but in the blockchain space at large. There's big problems that still need to be solved around identity, around personal data, sharing of personal data, right? We can't put personal data on a blockchain, right? It's pretty public. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You can store hashes, you can do some neat things, but it's not a simple thing. So as far as the network itself, there's 4 major promises for Worbli. At least the way I see it is that we promised an enterprise grade blockchain, that it would be a little bit different than mainnet or public blockchains. We take a little time with updates. We do a lot of extensive security testing for vulnerabilities. Of course, if we find anything, we're always sharing that back to the mainnet community. The other promise is compliance, right? That's our big value proposition, that we're a fully compliant chain. And then we have the user account. That over time, that we'll have a user account that's accessible for the crypto neophyte or the non-technical user, and that's a work in progress, of course. And then the final promise was the fiat gateways, right? Every financial application is going to ultimately rely on the ability to move from fiat into digital assets and from digital assets into fiat. And so I feel really excited and optimistic about the progress we've made so far. Our blockchain network, performance is solid, and it's only going to get better. We're currently in the process on optimizations for transaction speeds, and we expect to really blow away the existing speeds that people have seen out there over the next few months. So that's pretty exciting. As far as compliance, I feel really good about the fact that it's just something that is really in the DNA of the team and everybody who's involved in the project, and that we've done a really good job, and that we're in a good position there. The user account, again, for the early phases of the project, I think we've done a nice job. We do have an AML KYC integration and account creation tool. We're working on a lot of different features, but I feel like within the next year, we're going to have a really great experience there and a lot of good innovative technology. And then the Fiat Gateway project, that's a deal that's in development, and I expect us to deliver on that in the next, looking like 3 to 6 months at the latest. So I think we've done a really great job around those 4 core principles, and those are something that we'll continue to really focus on as we continue to grow. So that's all I have for everybody. If Matt or anybody, if we have any questions.
Yep, we've got a few questions there, Dominic. I actually wanted to start off with one, just a little bit separate from that. And it was something that was kind of echoed inside of the Telegram chat room. And people are wondering, we see a lot of blockchain companies that are just blowing things up, and they're talking about the products that are coming. And I had like a certain interpretation. I was wondering whether you could kind of confirm or deny why all the secrecy, why all the NDAs, and how come you guys aren't hyping a lot of these things before they come to the market? Because I think people are used to a lot of that from blockchain companies. My interpretation was that, and I think they're bang on when I say this, that you're not a blockchain company, more of a technology company, and you're trying not to overhype things. What's kind of your thought process about that?
Yeah, I'd say, we're really a fintech company. And first of all, when you're dealing with compliance, that in and of itself limits a lot of what you can talk about, and more importantly, when you can talk about it. The other thing is that we're dealing with other financial companies that have compliance rules and regulations that they need to deal with and follow. We have to be very careful that we're not using our marketing to, for example, be perceived as trying to elevate token price or manipulate token price, right? We have to play by all the rules. The blockchain industry may not be entirely regulated at this stage as far as what people can get away with, but we are, or we certainly will be. We know it's not a matter of if, it's when. We need to have these discussions with regulators, and they come knocking and asking us, how we've handled ourselves, and take a look at, past actions and activities, and then again, we're also dealing with companies that, want to protect their competitive advantages. They don't want a lot of information out there. So, we have to, stay true to the non-disclosure agreements we have. And then really the final thing is that it's kind of, if you listen to that statement around kind of like hyping up projects, and, you know, I think that's all a lot of projects have actually done is create really good hype. And I guess that's a gift in and of itself, but you know, that's not our approach. It's about delivering. You know, the value in the project will come from what we actually create and the problems we solve. So
it's easy to hype when you've got nothing much to hype about. You know, we've definitely got a lot to talk about as an organization. Exciting projects on the way, and we just don't need to overemphasize. Like, you know, I'm sure people have got names in mind of who does a good job at the hype game, but it's just not who we are. We're enterprise executives, and the people who we will be dealing with in the future, they need to see certainty. They need to be assured, you know, they need to have assurance that we are people who deliver on what we say we do, and that we have the capability to do so, and we're not just hot air. And it's something that Domenic, myself, and the team have, I think from day one, actually, Dom, we said we just want to deliver. We don't want to, you know, we don't want to hype up. And it's also on the point around dates. It's very easy to, you know, for us, and we made those, you know, we made those errors. And I think looking back, reflecting on those, it's dangerous putting dates in this game where we are in uncharted territory. That if, you know, something small can put us back a couple of weeks, and it's that the pressure to deliver for the community. It's, you know, if you have that overarching pressure, you will then compromise on potentially quality, and those things we cannot compromise on. Compliance, quality, security. It's just a no-no, and you know, we had to draw a bit of a line and say, you know, we will announce things when something is ready to be released, and we'll talk about it in more detail when we can. So it's just, you know, that respect and appreciation from the community, just to try and empathize with where we're at is important.
100%. I'm going to ask a couple of tough ones, or at least one tough one from the crowd, because it's something, again, that's been echoed a lot in the Telegram. People are wondering, and of course we've discussed this, I understand your stance. People are wondering when they're going to be able to have access to some of the information regarding token statistics following the token burn and stuff like that. And this seems to be something that comes up on the regular. I know it's probably not a high priority at this time, but I did want to ask that because that's something that's been fielded a lot lately.
Yeah, Matt, it's not something that's necessarily not a high priority, but I mean, we needed certain bits of information before we could come up with something accurate. And again, you know, giving estimates of something where we know there's eventually a hard number doesn't make a lot of sense. I can say I have a meeting about this tomorrow to finalize circulating supply. And then hopefully we'll be able to publish something fairly quickly thereafter. We just have to do some checks and double checks. We also want to talk about the token lockups. You know, for this group, I can say that the founders' tokens are on a 3-year lockup. There's a block producer bond that mirrors a similar lockup. And we also do lockups for all tokens that applications purchase as part of, you know, business development. We do have some apps that have purchased tokens directly from us, and we put them in a lockup so that it's not a scenario where we might have a business try to trick us into selling them a bunch of tokens and then just turning around and turning a profit on the tokens, for example. So we're going to be releasing all of that information fairly soon here. We know it's important. And I can say that we'll definitely get it out before the token burn event on March 1st.
That's great. I'm going to ask a question here, which is actually not from the audience. It's from Fuzzy, but I think that it's a question that I've definitely heard before in Telegram, and it's a good question. So we've talked about holding the applications that are coming to Worbli to a higher standard. And this was something that he more kind of wanted me to direct at perhaps Rob and Sean. What are some of these standards? You've mentioned before, Domenic, that not necessarily interested in having gambling applications, like you guys are looking for real world applications that are going to run on blockchain and are going to do something positive. What are some of the standards, or how are you guys deciding applications that you're going to onboard?
Great question.
Yeah, Sean, I'll just say that, I did talk about that process. There's those points. It's, what's the business model, right? So effectively, what's the business risk? What's the technical roadmap? Do we think that the team can accomplish what it's saying it's going to accomplish? What type of compliance, plans do they have in place, or what type of compliance processes have they already been a part of or expect to be a part of? And then security, what are the security protocols and procedures that they're following and expect to follow? Because it's really, for us, it's about, again, reducing that risk as preemptively and preventatively as we can.
Yeah, that's perfect. Very simplified. There's these factors that play into it and you can think about it this way: business strategy and structure. What do they have in place, and what does that look like? And there's a number of things that fall under that that include token economics and their launch and all of that. And then you get to sales. How is it monetized? How is it going to move forward? And then you get into blockchain, legal, and then through all the things, some of the things that Dom just mentioned from a technological standpoint, from security. And then even we get into marketing education. Those can be factors as far as, what is their plan. And these are things that we can assist a company with, and we can help with if they need it, if it's something that's needed. Any one of those, there's about 15 different things that we look at, and that help us determine, okay, we're ready to move forward, or well, let's take a pause here and focus on this.
Again, just to add to that, Sean, from the marketing standpoint, and to elaborate for the audience, is a lot of businesses a lot of businesses are very passionate, they're very keen, and they have a great idea. I tell you, the amount of amazing ideas I've heard has been fantastic over the last 12 months. However, there's a breakdown in communications when it comes to articulating that idea and the product to the people who need to use it. There's also a breakdown in understanding of who is going to use this application. An application that can, whether it's in retail, e-commerce, there's so many intricacies around who is going to use it and who is going to benefit from it. Because often enterprise applications, we think mass adoption. Well, yes, it will enable mass adoption. However, the mass adoption comes from the beneficiaries of the technology. So the people building the app may be a big company, and the people benefiting in 2 years' time will be the end users. And it's about really understanding this to its core so that you've got the best chance of success. Because if we look at 2017, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who could talk about projects that raised a lot of money and went nowhere. Well, that's because conference companies are charging $50,000 to $100,000 for a 3x3 meter stand, and by all means, it's the sexiest way of spending your money, because you get to show your mates, you're on business class flights going to New York, there's Lambos, there's this, and it's getting sucked into what has been quite a turbulent 18 months. And again, we want to be here to mitigate that risk for, applications, businesses, building on the blockchain, and we want to ensure they've got the best chance of success. And, it's something that I'm passionate about, but marketing, it always gets to that point. You've got the best idea and you don't know how to communicate it. I'm
going to throw another tough one at you, Domenic, but I'm only going to throw it at you because I know you're well equipped to deal with it. And I'm going to kind of, don't laugh at me. It's a good question, and it's something that's brought up by a lot of people inside of the group. And I have my own personal thoughts. I've ranted a lot about this, but Roger, who was always in Telegram, it's good to see you here, Roger, by the way, asked a question essentially saying that a lot of people are talking like WOrbli, it might not be necessary to do a KYC base layer for a blockchain if you could do it through an application or whatever else. And we've talked a lot about competition. You always knew competition was coming. There are some other competitive platforms out there, but what are you doing in terms of staying competitive and ultimately, how are you going to deal with some of these other competitors? What are some of the advantages that WOrbli has over top of other traditional platforms?
Well, again, compliance is definitely a core offering. And we're really the first ones in the EOS space to get it out there. So we definitely benefit from first mover. But compliance isn't just AML KYC. As I spoke to at the beginning of the meeting, it's the nodes. You can't do it at an application layer. I mean, each application can do it. And then that's back to the problem we're solving. Do you want to go through AML KYC for every single application that requires it on mainnet? Good luck. I don't. I'm not going to do AML KYC 30 times or whatever it is to access all of the various financial applications that I might want to participate with. For example, I have exchange accounts with, Finance and Bitfinex and Coinbase, and it's such a pain in the ass with the 2FA and everything I'm doing to protect myself and my hardware wallets and all of that. I don't need another headache. I just don't need it. So the other thing is, again, you're giving that information. We've been criticized for, people giving us their information. What does that mean? And it's blockchain and it's all supposed to be, decentralized Shangri-La. That's great. But at least you're giving the information once. And in our scenario, we can act as the trusted third party now with all of the applications on chain, and we don't have to keep your compliance documents at the ready. We can keep them in effectively cold storage, and then we can vouch for your identity with all the applications you interact with on WOrbli. So what I say that can be done in an application layer, we can do it at the blockchain layer. We can do it totally and completely. And why aren't those apps just leveraging the WOrbli account for their AML KYC instead of putting all the users through it over and over again? In addition, compliance isn't just AML KYC, it's all of the block producers. Are they vetted? Have they been through corporate AML KYC? Do you know who all the beneficial owners are? Who are you doing business with? What are all the transactions on the chain? Are they all meeting compliance standards? Do you have an AML policy that's ongoing, that's looking and leveraging things like artificial intelligence and machine learning for anti-money laundering? These are all the types of things that need to be required. Do you have a compliance officer for the network? How are you going to do all of these things? So there is a lot more to compliance than that. It's a total approach that we have. And it's absolutely necessary if you expect to pass muster with compliance bodies. And at least so far in our conversations, enterprise businesses are not going to accept anything less. You are not going to see, a bank launch on mainnet. You might see a banking project, and it may have, I think it's Good Money or something was mentioned as a project that's trying to bring a sort of a challenger bank. I don't know for sure that they're launching on mainnet or not, but, again, there can be some fintech projects on mainnet, and that's great. But we're building an entire ecosystem, and we expect that's only going to get increasingly more attractive to fintech companies.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about kind of some of the STO movement. I don't know if this has really been emphasized enough, Domenic. Like STOs, it's the new ICO, but safer. Why do you see companies shifting towards some of the traditional models and moving towards blockchain? Like what's going to draw them in? What's going to keep them here? And what are some of the advantages of them doing that over traditional finance?
Well, the security token offering, first and foremost, it's a compliant way to raise money if really what you're offering is a security, meaning that you're that there's financial gain, expected financial gain, or certainly that you're advertising it in any way. If you're going to be offering dividends, for the token holders, the SEC Howey test is kind of the famous test around whether or not your security, what's the functionality, we've been through this. We're just on a call today with our attorney, getting our final letter around from a global law firm that we are in fact a utility token. Because again, we're a financial network. The token represents network resources. That's exactly what you do with it. It needs to be staked in order to access the network in a variety of ways. We offer free account creation for AML for our users that get through the AML KYC process. But again, there's tokens staked in order to allow users to perform transactions and access for applications with RAM, which is something that we don't use the token for particularly, but it still represents bandwidth, CPU, and all of the other network resources. So, but the other thing around the security token offering is that it does allow you to offer a lot of different types of products that I think people who didn't want to end up in front of the SEC with their projects, are probably now warming up to blockchain and seeing that there's an avenue. But the advantage is fantastic. I mean, you can now use the distributed ledger for your, shareholder ledger, right? Every, public company has a ledger of all of the stockholders, right? So, you can use blockchain to do that instead of traditional databases, things like that. And it's immutable. You can get a level of transparency. You can distribute shares. It's a little bit easier for accounting purposes. There's a lot of different advantages to using the blockchain, the ledger aspect of it for the security token offering. And then, of course, again, you can't do with a stock certificate what you can do with a token, right? So now we have the additional functionality of a token, which can have all kinds of different qualities. It can have smart contracts, right? And all kinds of different features, that you can't do with a stock certificate, right? So we think that in the future, over time, that we'll be able to shorten the time from the security token offering to the public offering. And that's when you can get past the, that you can open it up to non-accredited investors. And so that's something that we'll be working on very aggressively. It's a big part of what we want to offer at WOrbli, which is access. You and I have had the conversations around the fact that most of the money and the appreciation of projects does happen from that seed stage to the public stage. And so we certainly want people to have earlier access. But there's also some other ways in which you can fund your project, that we're looking into compliant crowdfunding for projects, something that I'm working with you guys over at Tribe, and we've had a lot of conversations about. And again, Kickstarter-like scenarios, but again, that are fully compliant, so that projects don't find themselves in trouble in the future.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's incredibly fascinating. Somebody asked about airdrops. Of course, I won't bore you with that, but typically if it's up to them if they want to airdrop. We don't anticipate any STOs are going to airdrop. There were some other interesting questions. One in particular was about
I can just real quick, Matt. Let me speak to the airdrop thing. It's I know that's that become this thing that has become an expectation of blockchains and blockchain networks. I'll very honestly say that we didn't see a lot of value in doing the share drop. The bulk of the people that accessed it did so in a very short period of time. Understood it was a little bit difficult with account creation, but giving away your product or your project for free it does have its use cases, and I think like the ICO model, we'll see it get refined in the future. But, the bulk of the businesses that are coming to Worbli are existing businesses that are just not going to give away their project for free. It's just not their model of business. So it's just a different use case for us.
We were having some questions about, you and I have spoken about this before previously too. People are wondering if at some point in the future, because you speak a lot about access and perhaps unbanking some of the unbanked, if there were future plans to create an easier way to facilitate account creation, like perhaps for those people in economically disprivileged countries who might only have access to a cell phone.
Without access to a cell phone?
No, what I've kind of found from speaking to a lot of people is that the one thing that these people have access to is actually a cell phone.
Oh, right, so, yeah. Of course, yeah. The mobile phone penetration is quite high. Absolutely. That's at the core of the mission for us is access. It's bringing businesses to the blockchain to disrupt finance and hopefully reduce the sort of stranglehold that the global banking industry has on financial services and the fact that these folks do limit access, and we know that they consider a vast portion of the population to be too risky, is the term you often see. And there's some good reasons for that. Identity, again, is an important part of all global financial transacting laws and compliance laws. Know your customer is critical. It's something that we are absolutely working on. We're looking into newer and more innovative ways in the future that we can find ways to provide identity verification, especially for countries that don't have great databases for their populations or don't have government issued IDs, or that they're not widespread or reliable. There's things like self-sovereign identity. There's a real movement around that. That's something that we've been exploring and looking at. Social verification could potentially be a possibility where, a user is verified and then can vouch. And if you have enough verified users vouching for an additional user, and all the way down to as well, boots on the ground, that's something we've talked about as well. There'd be nothing wrong with, and I'd hope to see that eventually the community might mobilize around something like this, but community ambassadors going to places where this is a challenge and just signing people up. We can still do this sort of the old-fashioned way, right? Having people walk up and provide, proper verification of who and what they are, and signing that user up right there on their cell phone.
So, something's been hypothesized, and it's actually interesting if you look at the states, and if you look at if we just use the states for an example, Bernie Sanders is something I remember him talking about was the U.S. Postal Service. There's a U.S. Postal Service. There's a location. I think they got 50,000 or maybe even 100,000 U.S. postal stores. What's saying that those stores, for example, in the future, that they would just be a location where, for example, the older demographic, the 65, 70 plus year old, today, they're going to need help utilizing new services, new products, new technology in the future. So there is still need for human interaction. Whilst this is distributed and decentralized, it doesn't mean that I have to be alone and I have to be, I have to learn this all myself. So customer service and that interaction that Dom speaks about, and call it local area marketing, and even retail, that's still definitely a channel that we can explore. If there was a bank in the future, we don't expect it to be a bank where you just have to be able to deal with someone, in a customer chat. We're still people. We still live in the wide world. There's still retail space, and if anything, retail space is getting cheaper because it's less competitive because brands aren't as successful. So we do have to get creative as to what will enable mass adoption, what will enable end users to truly benefit. And is it Worbli's mission? Yes. Is it something that we will help enable? Absolutely. And we'll provide education, resources, but we will be looking, like Dom said, at partnerships, at advocates, at businesses who want to take on that sort of challenge for their communities. Because being in Melbourne, in Australia, I don't know, Matt, you're in Costa Rica. I don't know what the community, the culture, the learning culture is there. So it's something that we can assist with, but we do need that local, those local feet on the ground to be able to educate. And yeah, that's, I suppose, my 2 cents is I think customer service is going to be vital in the future, and there's going to be a lot of hand holding.
100%. I agree with that. And of course, a lot of the conversations that I've had with Domenic have reflected that the current state of onboarding, what things need to be done to really onboard the masses. And I think that personally, Worbli is nailing a lot of that. I know that we can't necessarily go on for too long here. We're sitting at about an hour and 10 minutes, but I thought if it was okay with you, Domenic, and if it was okay with you guys, anybody who's interested, there's no pressure on you, but perhaps you could just introduce yourself, talk about your role, and one of the things that really defines why you're proud to be on this mission with Worbli, perhaps starting from Max and working our way left to right.
Hi there, I'm Max Corsi, and I'm with business development, working a lot with Sean and marketing and whatnot. But I'm really excited about some of the STO things coming up, and specifically real estate, which is my background. So I've been spending a lot of time talking to various entities who are looking at applying real estate into blockchain, whether it's title or tokenization of real estate assets, particularly with the new opportunity zones, which are coming up and going to push kind of billions of dollars in it. But really excited to be on a compliant chain, and something that I think has the potential to really integrate into the financial system. So.
Okay, I talk too much, so Sam, you're up. I think everybody has heard enough from me. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, I'll take over. Mark, I reckon it'll be great to introduce Mark Patterson, a fellow Australian.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. My name's Mark Patterson. I live in Brisbane, Australia. I'm engaged as a banking and fintech advisor to Worbli, and I'm also helping Sam construct a marketing, PR, and sales division here in Australia. I was actually introduced to Worbli over a couple of beers, as is often the case, and it piqued my interest, and I followed through on that, and here I am helping them build out their business. It's a wonderful company, and it's great to be involved with all these people scattered all over the globe. We hold these regular online meetings, and I enjoy it immensely. And I'm really looking forward to helping the guys build out the business as we go down the road. I just discovered today there's a new...
I was going to say, tell the guys the background.
I've been in the banking and finance sector. I own a company in partnership with 3 others, and we develop software and services for the banking and finance sector, predominantly customer-facing digital device-based delivery systems, which is smartphones and tablets and browser-based solutions where banks and financial institutions want to serve up transactional data, bill-paying services, statements, and all the rest of the information that is now commonly called internet banking. It's also called mobile banking. So that's what my background is. I've got a lot of relationships with financial institutions in Australia and New Zealand, and I'm keen to use those to leverage some new business for Worbli. I also discovered today there's a new word. You know how we talk about fintech, insurtech, regtech? It's true, there's a new one called sex tech. We're actually going to see sex tech in the future. That did catch my interest, I must admit.
There's fun on that point, and some folks I met at the EOS hackathon in London earlier in the year. There's a company called Intimate.io, and I understand they are involved in the EOS ecosystem but they're actually an Australian-based organisation, I believe.
Oh, of course.
And just, you know, if we were to say every industry needs a payment and transaction and possibly verified ID, if that's to improve, you know, whilst we talk, it's, you know, it's across the board. If we can improve industries, improve security, there's an opportunity for WOrbli. Look, I'm the marketing guy, so I'm supposed to find these opportunities. But Chetan, it'll be great. Introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Hi guys, my name's Chetan. I've been with WOrbli for almost a year, and I work in the marketing department. My passion and the reason why I'm with WOrbli is to bring WOrbli to the mainstream, bring blockchain and the technology to the mainstream, and using my marketing professional skills, you know, to achieve that with WOrbli and for generally to the blockchain industry. So I have previously worked with a lot of consumer tech, especially with companies like Deliveroo, in bringing and making them into household names on a day-to-day basis. When you think about it, such businesses like Deliveroo, Uber did not exist a few years ago, and today they are part and parcel of our lives, and that's where I sort of expect WOrbli and blockchain applications to sort of be as well in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's my vision with WOrbli as well.
No, thanks, Chetan. Fuzzy, I'm gonna pick on you because look, you've been working with Domenic and I and the team for a while now, but you're also quite a renowned figure in the community, and not often I don't think people get to see your face. You're usually behind a few memes. So take the stage.
Yeah, I'm Official Fuzzy, aka Justin. I've worked with BitShares from the very beginning and delegated proof of stake along with Dan Larimer. Kind of doing similar things to what Matt's doing right now in this group. And of course, over time, I've learned a few things. So I tend to like to offer my advice and my thoughts and the things that I've learned. And the WOrbli community approached me and asked me to step on as an advisor and as an initial block producer. And I had a team who I really trust, who we don't always go into the block producer services, but you guys kind of got us started doing that. So largely what we're trying to do is I want to try to create Voltron. I know everybody's, you know, not everybody understands the whole concept of, most people think EOS, and that's the only chain that's allowed to exist. And if any other one exists, it's going to kill the other chains. It's going to kill EOS, or it's going to attack it and hurt it in some way. I look at it as more of a synergistic thing, kind of like what WOrbli is doing is things that a lot of other chains that are EOS-based don't really want to do or can't do. And vice versa for some of these other chains. They might want to do things that WOrbli doesn't want to do. So I'm here to try to find opportunities to help you guys and my main goal is to try to show people that inter-blockchain value proposition. And that things like WOrbli can offer a lot of value to other chains too, right? So my thinking right now is to leverage the KYC and to leverage some of those tools for other projects. But I also love to be able to advise people and have, let's face it, you guys are the first ones who've actually rewarded me for my advice and my ideas. In this space, a lot of the time, people will take the ideas and write a white paper and say that they came up with it, right? I think there's actually a good cartoon out there that kind of makes fun of people just rewriting the Satoshi white paper and saying, you know, putting new names and project names and stuff. But you guys were the first ones to really appreciate some of the things that myself and my team had done. So you guys kind of brought us on board, and I like the idea of it because kind of what Domenic was talking about is there's a lot of things in blockchain that just for a business person or for even a person who's like, man, we got to do these things ethically, you find yourself wanting a lot of time in blockchain, right? In blockchain in general. I think Worbli offers some really powerful things for that. I think we should leverage it and show people that, we don't always need KYC, AML. We don't always need all these things, but there are times when we very much do. So without going too deep into it, I'm really here to help that process along, learn, and give my advice along the way. And you guys seem like you actually ask for it sometimes. So I greatly appreciate that you listen to the advice that I offer. But
thanks, Fuzzy.
Yeah, thank you.
No, it's good, and the long-term vision is I think everyone in the community and within the industry wants to achieve the same outcome, and Worbli have taken a slightly different path, and we've been very, very, it's been very sensitive to us because Domenic and myself and Rob, we're decentralized people at heart, but we also understand. Dealing with big corporates for 10 years, there's the processes. There's a CFO is never going to sign off on a project where it could be $10,000 one day and $1,000 the next. The volatility is something that enterprise businesses, they cannot fathom. And, the dealing with the current foreign exchange markets as is, that's already a big enough challenge and a cost to their business. So if we can enable, as we're doing a centralized approach, we're controlling and building this foundation, which eventually will be passed over to the community. That's where, if we can really enable that foundation to be strong and transferable and easy to understand. I see quite a few comments that have been made around how can we make this easy, more automated. That doesn't happen overnight. And it's also leveraging the best technology because, we are using the best technology at the moment. When EOS improves and upgrades and when, other ways of, because I know, Dom, when we talk around block producers and our BPs being as aligned as possible so we can optimize the speeds, when new upgrades come out, we also need to have the right processes in place to ensure that we can evolve with the times and not be held back due to legacy systems and so on and so forth. So, thanks, Fuzzy. Brooke, I'll ask you to make a quick introduction, then I'll pass back to Dom afterwards.
Sounds great. Yeah, so my name is Brooke. I am a part of the marketing and PR department, and I've actually been with Worbli pretty much since it was just an idea on paper. I remember talking with Dom before they had really started to move forward with the potential of this project, and financial freedom and having the ability to get involved in things that a lot of people don't have access to right now. I really saw Worbli had that potential to help liberate people financially. And I've just seen it grow so much since a year ago. I mean, and it just keeps developing into something I think that is just more and more impactful, and that will really just make such a huge difference in how we think about banking, how we think about financial services, and how we can really service people day to day. So that's something that I just find to be so incredibly exciting about the project. And really what I do day to day at Worbli is basically just facilitating communication between the foundation, between different apps that are being built on the chain, and also marketing and PR to enhance transparency internally and also externally. So that's my day today.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. I didn't hear what Fuzzy said. I'm sure it was hilarious.
just facilitating communication. She made sure to put just in there. Just wanted to make clear. But go ahead.
There's a lot going on in the background, but I try to be modest.
I'd like to hear something from Mitch. Mitch is he's been phenomenal. Mitch has started off helping me out and helping me with our block producer selection process. And we marked him to be sort of our chief liaison with the BPs. And he acts in that capacity, but he's just been so hardworking and enthusiastic about everything that he's now working in business development. He's doing block producer stuff. So I'd like to hear a little bit from Mitch.
Thanks, Dom. Yeah, so as Dom mentioned, I help Sean out on business development and look after a lot of the block producer operations. My background isn't the usual background. I come from a military background and slowly made my way into blockchain. And the thing that really impressed me about WOrbli is that I feel it's going to bridge that gap. It's what it will provide what's not out there at the moment. And I really think it's going to provide something that will impact not just businesses but everyday people, particularly those less fortunate than us. So that's why I'm really passionate to work for WOrbli, and I'm really happy to be part of the team.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely it's been great to just have so many talented people join the team and help out and work really hard. So definitely appreciate all of you guys. I think we can wrap it up, Matt.
It's been really cool. I apologize for a little bit of the issues with the live streaming. We'll have that fixed up for you guys next time. But I think the first one was just to kind of knock the dust off. I love the way we're doing this. For anybody who's watching, there's also going to be a live replay of this up really soon underneath YouTube. So make sure you check that out. And every 2 weeks, the team has said that they're going to sit down. They're going to discuss things that are coming. We're going to welcome you guys into the meeting to have a little chat and just talk about kind of things as they unfold. So thanks so much for joining us today. Thank you, everybody from Team WOrbli, for showing up and spending some time. And I look forward to spending time with you guys and a lot of our good supporters here in the next little while. So thanks so much, everybody, for showing up. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.